Welcome back to Trending Viral Recaps, my friend. In this video, I'll give you a rundown of a 2019 thriller/fantasy film that will keep you on the edge of your seat. There will be spoilers ahead. Enjoy the tale recap, and if you haven't already, please like and subscribe for more story recaps in the future. It takes place in 1981 in Florida. Violet Hanson, a young girl, is on a camping trip with her family. She goes for a walk in the woods one afternoon and comes upon a woman sitting alone by the lake. She introduces herself as Rose the Hat and uses magic to enchant Violet. The girl then observes other individuals watching them from a distance. Right before she and the rest of the people in the woods converge on Violet, Rose tells Violet that she has a bit of magic in her. Danny Torrance, on the other hand, is still recovering from his ordeal at the Overlook Hotel. His mother, Wendy, is concerned because he hasn't spoken to her since their stay at the hotel, yet he still has dreams about the Grady twins and the bathtub lady from room 237. Danny can see spirits like Dick Halloran thanks to his shine abilities. He demonstrates to Danny how to keep evil spirits at bay by demonstrating a box that he may use to trap them. Wendy then rushes outside to see Danny on the bench, but he is alone. Danny and Wendy are watching TV together that night. Danny excuses himself to use the restroom, where he is greeted by the bathtub lady. He traps her inside a box he creates in his head. He returns to his mother and resumes his conversation with her. In the year 2011, Dan is an alcoholic and lives in New Jersey. He gets into a big bar brawl and knocks a man down, then hooks up with a woman from the same bar. When he wakes up in the morning, he discovers the woman's child, which irritates him. Andy, a kid from Long Island, meets with an older man she met on the internet. Rose and Crow Daddy, her right-hand guy, are keeping an eye on her from afar. Andy can persuade others to do what she wants before biting him on the cheek with a snake-bite-like cut. Rose notices Andy outside the theater and invites her to join her and Crow. They take her to their stronghold, where Rose reveals to Andy that she possesses unique abilities that benefit their cult, the True Knot. Rose dubs her snakebite Andy and assures her that they will be able to eat well, keep young, and live long. New Hampshire's Aniston Aberystone is turning 5 years old. Her parents, Dave and Lucy, observe that Abra has made a pile of spoons float up to the ceiling in the kitchen. She merely says abracadabra and they are forced to sit down. Dan moves to Fraser, Fresh Hampshire, to begin a new life. Dan meets and befriends a local man named Billy Freeman, to whom he confesses that he is fleeing something. Dan finds a place to stay, thanks to Billy's recommendation to the landlord. Rose takes Andy to the beach for a ceremony that night. Grandpa Flick, the eldest True Knot member, leads the ritual. Rose pulls out a canister containing Violet's radiance, which is displayed as a forceful steam. Violet's radiance is fed to Andy by Rose, while the other True Knot members get their fair amount. Andy writhes and cries till the shine has been absorbed. In Dan's nightmare, he sees a spirit lying next to him. He seeks help from Billy, who takes Dan to an AA meeting. Dan is introduced to Dr. John Dalton after the meeting. Dan spots Dalton gripping his wrist and approaches him, telling him that he forgot his watch in the restroom, which only Dalton would know. Dalton, impressed by Dan's insight and persuaded by Billy's recommendation, hires Dan as an orderly at the hospice because he has prior experience. Dan is cleaning the floors one night shift when he discovers the hospice's cat, Azzy, entering the room with an elderly man. When Azzy enters someone's room and sits on their bed, The man understands it's because Azzy knows that person is going to die. At first, the man appears terrified, but Dan reassures him telepathically that death is just like sleeping. Dan is dubbed Dr. Sleep by the man, who seems relieved. The older man is gone in a flash, as shown by his breath leaving his body. Dan gets home to see hello painted on his wall, complete with a smiling face in the O. Hello, he writes back. Dan is still sober 8 years later, in the year 2019. He expresses his sentiments of never knowing his father and only feeling close to him when he drank at a meeting. It made him realize that his father had gone through the same ordeal as him, but Dan had chosen to triumph. He keeps working as an orderly, tending to patients who are near death. He also keeps in touch with Abra. The True Knot hasn't had a proper meal in a long time, depending on leftovers from children with weaker shines. They are following a teenage baseball player named Bradley Trevor, whose shine aids him in games. Andy makes him get in their van when the True Knot follows him home. They drag him away to a remote location, pin him down, and brutally murder him while feeding on his dying screams. Abra detects the crime and runs screaming inside her house, informing her parents that the kid has been murdered. Rose can sense Abra's presence as well, and refers to her as a looker. Dan notices the word Redrum painted on his wall at this point. Who? He asks Abra, and she responds, baseball boy. Bradley is then buried in a shallow grave by the True Knot. Abra conducts an investigation into Bradley's disappearance. She is able to hear her classmates' thoughts at school. She receives visions of the True Knot and their whereabouts when she returns home to her room. She glances out her window and floats for a moment as she connects with Rose, who is in the grocery. Rose sees Abra and makes contact with her, but Abra expels Rose from her head, causing a strong enough push to propel Rose across the floor. This strength astounds her, but it also threatens her. Rose relays this knowledge to Crow, indicating that her radiance may be too strong for the True Knot to handle, and that they must eliminate her. Dan and Abra ultimately find one another and explain their gifts, which Dan refers to as the Shining or Tony because he considers it to be similar to having an imaginary friend. Abra mistook Dan for an imaginary buddy. He urges her not to use her radiance in any way that would attract their attention when she informs him about the True Knot. Dan follows Azzy into a bedroom late at night while at work, when he re-encounters Dick for the first time since childhood. He cautions Dan about the True Knot's true nature and asks him to safeguard Abra because they have a bond. Dick also informs Dan that this is the final time he will see him. Rose meditates and enters Abra's mind when she is sleeping. She discovers what appear to be filing cabinets and begins rummaging through them, but Abra anticipates Rose's return and traps her hand in the drawer, causing Rose's skin to tear when she pulls her hand out. She reverts to her normal body and notices that her injuries has followed her. She informs the others that Abra laid a trap for her, indicating that she must now be slain. Grandpa Flick is cycling as Crow assures Rose. He convulses till he decays, and the colt swallows his steam since he is too weak to keep going. Abra contacts Dan once more and requests his assistance in locating Bradley's body, claiming that she can locate the colt if she touches his baseball glove. Dan is led to the place where the boy's body is buried by Abra with the help of Billy. Dan and Billy are startled and physically revolted by the discovery of the body. They return to Abra's house with the glove, but Dave has learned of Abra's relationship with Uncle Dan and believes Dan is a weirdo. Abra manages to trace the cult and identify their destination after explaining everything to Dave and showing their talents to him. Dan and Billy travel into the woods to use Abra, who appears from her kitchen to bait the cult. Rose feels the pain as Dan and Billy conceal and begin shooting at the cult members one by one. Billy shoots Andy, but she manipulates him into fatally shooting himself in the head with her dying breaths. Crow, meantime, murders Dave and kidnaps Abra. Dan returns home and is able to merge his thoughts with Abra's for a brief moment. Crow is flung through the glass and murdered instantly after they cause him to stare into a tree. Because he wasn't wearing his seat belt, he is ejected through the windshield and killed instantly. Dan pulls up alongside Abra. They then proceed to the now rundown and condemned Overlook Hotel, where they will make their final stand. Dan takes a tour of the building where his life-altering trauma began. He discovers room 237, which still bears the axe marks left by Jack. Dan climbs up to the mezzanine and meets Lloyd, the bartender, who bears a strong resemblance to Jack, while insisting that he is just Lloyd. Dan recalls Wendy's death when he was 20 years old, and how he knew she was dying because of the flies he would see around anyone near death. Before downing the drink he offered Dan, Lloyd sheds the mask and channels Jack. Dan and Abra team together to trap Rose in the ice hedge labyrinth as soon as she arrives. Rose is wounded by Abra slashing her legs, but she overcomes them and escapes. Abra flees, while Dan confronts Rose. She enters his head and sees all of the terror and suffering he experienced in that hotel, allowing her to begin absorbing his radiance. Rose then sees the overlooked ghost boxes and believes they hold greater power, but Dan instead unleashes them against her. Rose is surrounded by the Grady twins, Bathtub Lady, and other spirits, who consume her radiance and ruin her for good. However, they quickly switch their focus to Dan and seize him. He locates Abra, but she is able to tap into the system and contact Dan, who informs her that he has come to a halt in the boiler room. Knowing what is about to happen, Dan sends Abra outside while he leads the spirits to the boiler room to watch the overlook burn. Abra continues to converse with Dan's spirit sometime later. When her mother inquires about it, she initially denies it, but then reveals she was conversing with both Dan and her father. Lucy seemed to be unconcerned by Abra's abilities. Abra excuses herself to use the restroom before they watch TV together. The bathtub lady is waiting for her inside, but Abra is well ahead of her. Let us know what movie you'd like us to recap next in the comments. Thank you for watching Trending Viral Recaps. Have a wonderful day.